Hey everyone, Dale here, AK Wonder Knight, back with another video. I hope everyone's doing amazing out there and playing some awesome games right now. I wanted to come on today and do a video about my top 5 retro consoles. A while back I had a viewer that kind of commented on it would be cool if you could do a video about your favorite consoles. So I kind of wanted to shorten it up a bit into just retro right now instead of doing, current consoles and everything all together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my top 5 pre-HDMI retro consoles. So without further ado, here we go. I hope you enjoy the video, and let's get started. So number 5 on the list, the console that started it all for me basically was the NES. When the NES came out, I was about, early teens. So it was a huge part of my childhood, and the console that basically kind of sent me down the path where I am today.
More hits like Super Mario Brothers.
I have great memories of this console, playing with my little sister. We couldn't afford a console, the console at the time, so we had to, rent and borrow and kind of until we were able to get one, we had to kind of have it very seldomly, right? So when we did get it, it was major play sessions, downstairs in my parents' basement on a little, tiny TV, just huddled around playing, games like Legend of Zelda, Punch-Out, Ninja Gaiden, Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, the Super Mario series. I mean, the list goes on and on. This console has such a great array of games and such an amazing, I mean, even to this day, going back and playing the Nintendo Entertainment System is a real joy. It's a real treat. It's such an amazing console, and had such an amazing group of games. So that's my number 5, and definitely glad to have grown up in the era when that console was in its heyday, for sure. All right, number 4 on the list is the Sega Dreamcast. Well, it had a short lifespan. It had a big impact and on me, and great memories for me. It was the first console that I bought when I had moved out on my own. I got it on launch day, so that's another special memory for me. And just I had an amazing time with some of the games that came out with it. Resident Evil Code Veronica, Sonic Adventure, Phantasy Star Online, the first console to be able to connect to the internet and be able to play online games. Crazy Taxi, House of the Dead 2, Shinmu, like all those titles I had such fond memories of, and being able to enjoy playing games with other people online, and having also my friend group come and see the console. Not many people obviously had a Dreamcast, so being able to my sister play it, and friends play it, and just having a great time with a console that was way ahead of its time. All right, number 3, you guys, is the PlayStation 2. For me, another console I spent a lot of time playing. I mean, I think gamers of my age and people that had a PlayStation 2 back then were playing a lot of that console. It's still one of the best-selling consoles of all time. The game library in itself, as far as for me, having games like Metal Gear Solid, the Final Fantasy series, the games that came out for it then, the Resident Evil games, I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, I'm just looking at my shelf here to see how many more games there are. I mean, we're talking Grand Theft Auto series, advanced on the PlayStation 2. I liked series like SOCOM. I mean, that was one I played a lot on with friends on the PS2, and so many great RPGs too, like JRPGs on that console, and also who can forget on the PlayStation 2 God of War. I mean, this console was an absolute masterpiece. It cemented itself in history as one of the greatest consoles of all time, for sure. All right, these next 2 are really special to me. It was hard to decide between which was number 2 and which was number 1. But the first one I'm going to go with, it just came at a special time for me in my life when I hadn't been gaming a lot. I was heading into my early 20s. I didn't really game as much in the 16-bit era. I mean, obviously, in the 16-bit era, I still played some of the bangers as far as, Link to the Past and, Super Mario World, a lot of the Genesis stuff. But I was at an age where I was starting to work, I was, a young or late teen, and there was a lot more priorities in life as far as working, having fun with friends, starting to become a young adult. I just kind of, gaming took a back seat for a while. But these next two kind of came out at a time for me when I really reinvested into the passion that is gaming for me. And so number two is the PlayStation 1. And when I got my PlayStation 1, it reintroduced me to video game series that were important to me, mainly Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 7, when it came out for the PlayStation 1, it was a worldwide event for us in gaming. I went to the video game store to pick it up on launch day, Final Fantasy 7, when it came out, and just everybody was so excited for it. We didn't really have, much as far as the internet went back then. You had a bit of it, but you had, people just word of mouth, magazines, everyone talking about the PlayStation 1 and things that were happening with it. And when that Final Fantasy 7 hit the shelves, that was one of the first really worldwide events that people were talking about. And getting me back into series like Final Fantasy, introducing me to Resident Evil, introducing me to Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Gran Turismo. The list just goes on and on with that console. All the RPGs that came out for it as well. Final Fantasy Tactics, other games too on the PS1 like Tomb Raider, Dino Crisis, Parasite Eve. It's just such an amazing list of games, and going back and remembering that console as being one of the consoles that got me back into gaming at the time, and it just really has special memories for me. All right, everyone. The number one retro console for me is the Nintendo 64. There are many reasons why I put the Nintendo 64 at number one. I know I might get a bit of flack for this, and that's okay. The Nintendo 64 was important to me and the number one console for me because of these reasons. Number one, it was the console my wife bought me, which was my girlfriend at the time, for Christmas of '96. Number two, it had Nintendo characters on the screen in a way. Well, basically, it was the first time we saw our favorite Nintendo characters in 3D. So that was also a big, eye-opening for me at the time, was like walking in and seeing Mario in 3D for the first time, and Zelda Ocarina of Time, seeing Link in 3D for the first time. Those things, were pretty groundbreaking for me when the Nintendo 64 came out. The first game I played on my N64 was Mario 64, and I ended up playing it to the point where I got every star in the game. And then I moved on to, I think the next game was either Shadows of the Empire or Turok. And, so I completed both of those, and I just was like, okay, what's next? When am I going to, I can't remember exactly when Zelda came out, but, then there was Zelda Ocarina of Time. So I played that, and Majora's Mask, and I would play that. And then plus all the stuff you could do with, with other people playing, the wrestling games, the WWF games were a hit for us back then, and playing with friends on those, I were just having a riot with that. And GoldenEye, obviously, hours and hours and hours of GoldenEye, Perfect Dark. It just, it didn't have the game library that maybe a PlayStation 1 did. It didn't have, CDs where you could put, all this great video, great sound on, but it did still bring such an important part of our history in video games to it, because it was the first console that we had Nintendo characters in 3D. It was groundbreaking. So yeah, everyone, those are my top 5 retro game consoles for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I would love to, have you drop a like, drop some comments, and please subscribe to the channel, because it will help out with growing the channel a bit more. Thanks again to all my viewers. I hope everyone's having a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next video.